And we are back for another Milk Crate moment. Today, my guest is number one. Let me just say this. Today is my, oh, I'm hearing an echo, um, Nancy. Let me turn me down a little. Maybe that's it. What
Maybe
I'm,
I'll, okay.
okay. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm hearing a feedback there. I don't know what that's about. I'm hearing like me talking. Anyway, today my guest is not only my guest today, but you guys, she shows up on every podcast, right? She's like when I look and see who's our guest on in Facebook, she's there. She's there waiting, and she's there um, watching all of the podcasts and commenting. And Nancy, I couldn't be happier to have you here today, and super happy that you're always there. It's like, yay, we have a follower. We have somebody who's listening. Yay. It's probably Nancy. I love that.
Thank
So,
you.
oh, look, somebody says, hi. Aw, hi, Nancy. Some Facebook user said that. So, Nancy, let's go ahead and get started. And maybe what I'll do is mute myself when you're talking. But I love the fact that you want to be here. You came to my event last year, the Second Act Conference. I'm hesitant to see if you had a good time or not. And did you?
I had a wonderful time and I had a wonderful time
Okay,
and
good.
I met incredible, lasting relationships, business, friendships. It was priceless.
Awesome. But that's not the reason we're here today. We're
No,
here today to find out about your milk crate moment, that time in your life where you had to make a decision. And that's what we're going to talk about right now, right?
absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna let you talk, and I think if I mute, I won't have so much background noise. So
Okay.
I'm gonna let you turn your volume down just a little, or you've already turned it down quite a bit. Let me turn it down. Maybe that's part of the problem. There we go. Okay, Nancy, please share with us your milk crate moment.
Okay. So, first of all, I guess I should introduce myself. I am Nancy Spano. I live in New York. I am an author and a speaker. Sorry for my dog. Um, So my milk crate moment, I guess there's a lot of them, and the most significant one is I came from a history of severe depression as a young child, and I could never figure out why. Um, I felt like it was just who I was, and I identified with being depressed. It wasn't until I was about 18 or 19, as they say, I was triggered. And I was actually watching a Dr. Phil show, and I was relating to a young girl that was sexually abused when she was young. And I sort of had a breakdown, breakthrough, meltdown, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
Realized that a lot of the abuse that I suffered as a child was repressed, suppressed. Um, And although it was painful, it was eye opening because it answered all the questions to why I was suffering with depression.
Mhm.
That started my journey into who, when, why, and overcoming the pain of realizing that I was abused. Um, I've been in deep, intense therapy, as you can imagine. Fast forward to getting married, having children, um, never really knowing my purpose, um, loving my husband, wonderful family, having two beautiful girls, but knew that I was meant for more, but didn't know what that more was. It was 2019. I suffered a stroke due to the side effect of a medication. It Unfortunately, in the fine print, it said that anyone could suffer severe hypertension, and that's exactly what happened. My blood pressure went to 200 over 110,
Oh, wow.
and I not only suffered a stroke, I suffered a seizure. give you all the details because it's in my, but um, from that was in the ambulance. I felt the, excuse me, go, um, and my blood pressure had reached its maximum at that time. And you would think, as a normal human being, that you would be frightened and anxious, and I wasn't. I was very calm, and I did not see the pearly gates. The angels weren't singing, but I definitely was brought somewhere, a just a very bright white blanket of light. I can't really explain it. Come over me, and I was comforted. Um, it was sort of like a tornado of emotion. My father, who's deceased, came from behind me and he held my arms and he just whispered, "It's all going to be okay." Within that moment, I also had a conversation with God. And God and we didn't speak like you and I are speaking, but we spoke through messages. And the message that God sent me was, I can keep you with me, or I can send you back. And I will send you back on one condition. And that condition is that you go back and you walk in your purpose and you share your story and you change lives. From that moment on, that young girl that suffered that abuse and struggled with severe depression, as morbid as it sounds, but she died. And the person you're looking at right now is a new Nancy Spano. The word, when someone asks, what's your word for the year? What's your one word that describes you? The one word that always resonates in my head is resilient. I have knocked down doors, broken through windows, and I just keep going. I feel like a steamroller. I just keep going. I, you know, I was telling my story to someone, and 2 years ago, I also suffered breast cancer, and I had a bilateral mastectomy. And I say that God really knows what he's doing, because if he set it up where I had the breast cancer first, I probably would have taken that victim mindset and said, woe is me. How can this be happening? How am I going to get through this? But because it was set up as a gift, because I truly believe that my stroke was a gift for a second chance. Because my stroke was first, that victim mindset was eliminated. And I went into my breast cancer with the most positive mindset from the moment of diagnosis to the uphill battle of a bilateral mastectomy. My mindset was positive. It was, I got this. There was never, ever, ever victim mindset.
Do you find that the depression has gone too since the stroke?
So I continue therapy. I'm also on medication. Unfortunately, I think I come from a long line of depression, and I had a lot of shame around my depression. Years ago, you didn't speak about, God forbid, being an addict, suffering with alcoholism, dealing with depression. You just didn't speak about that. And I felt that on my journey recently, with surrounding myself with wonderful people like you and other speakers and entrepreneurs, I say that being transparent is my superpower. And since I've become completely transparent and an open book, no pun intended, um, it's very freeing. It's very, I can't think of the word, but I have nothing to hide.
Right.
There's no shame. I suffered with postpartum depression. That was also something that I had a lot of shame around because, you know, as a new mother, oh my God, this is that beautiful baby, and don't you love her? And again, it's in my book. Um, I suffered with pretty bad postpartum depression around having my firstborn. And it's just, I can't thank God enough for really giving me that gift. And my other takeaway is that gift was always there. My purpose was always there. It was just clouded by my depression.
Well, why don't you share what your purpose is?
So my purpose is to share my story, to let other women and young children, because unfortunately a lot of abuse happens to young children, know them, know that there's nothing to be ashamed about. Um, Changing from the victim mentality to, I guess you want to say, victor, um, for me, was sharing my truth. And once I shared my truth, I sort of sloughed off all of that shame. And it's, I can't think of the word besides freeing, but it's like I can walk into a room and instead of being like, yeah, I suffered with depression, I'm like, yeah, I suffered with depression. I suffered with anxiety. I was abused as a young child. And knowing that my truth and my honesty is going to touch hearts and hopefully give someone else a voice to say, I too suffered with that. I can relate to your story because I've been there. Um, that's my purpose.
Awesome. Love that. I love that you've taken something that was so hard and wrong and turned it into something so right, right? Letting go. So that's a great story, Nancy. So let's talk a little bit about the book, right? So is the book is that a written version of everything that you went through there?
Yes. So sorry. So it's considered a memoir, and I have to give kudos to my friend, my coach, my mentor, my editor, David Lloyd Strauss. Um, the stars were aligned when we met on Clubhouse. He too has had his own struggles and has shared his struggles. Um, I initially was working with a writing coach and it just didn't work out. So I had this manuscript and I had nothing to do with it. Like it was written, but it wasn't edited, it wasn't published, nothing. And David and I met one Saturday morning on Clubhouse when he was sharing his story. And it was just literally the stars were aligned and we got everything that I needed to get done in 8 weeks.
Wow.
And the book is now out. It's called A Stroke of Love.
Wait, is
And
it The Stroke of Love or is it just called Stroke of Love?
Stroke of Love.
Okay, I just want to make sure because if somebody's looking for it, I want to make sure that they can find it. So it's a stroke. I'm gonna put that in the chat. So keep talking. I just wanted to share that, make sure
Sure.
that
It's and there's a subtitle, and I'm not positive what it says. I believe it says overcoming um, stroke and breast cancer, and it's a memoir. It's considered a memoir.
So, first of all, I just want to say anybody who's like, how can you not know the subtitle of your book, right? I'm going to say to you, when you've written a book and you've talked about it and I can't remember the subtitle of one of my books, right?
I
Because it's
know.
right. So give her some slack because I'm going to say every writer suffers with that at some point. So I love the title "Stroke of Love" because you did look at this as a gift of love from God.
So with you mentioning that, I have to give everyone this piece because it's very important. Um, how it all came about is, again, I was on Clubhouse, which is a wonderful app, about 3 years ago, and I was sharing my story like I am with you,
Mhm.
and a lady came off her mic and she goes, "Oh my God, when are you writing your book?"
Mm,
Now, I never had the confidence, or the thought never crossed my mind to be a writer. Um, and I said to her, her name is Stephanie Arnold. And the reason I bring her up, I'll tell you in a second. Um, and I said, I'm not writing a book. And she goes, Oh, yes, you are. After sharing that story with us, you have to write a book. So that was like I say, that was the mustard seed. Fast forward to writing a book. Now, I was laying with my 9-year-old daughter back then, and God had nudged me and he told me to get up. And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning because for some reason everything happens at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I listened to him, and I walked across the dining room to the kitchen with my eyes closed, and I grabbed whatever I could to write down. I didn't even have my eyes open. And I wrote down what he told me to write down. And I went back to bed. When I got up in the morning, it said Stroke of Love.
mm.
So when people say that's a wonderful title, I give it all to God because I did not come up with that. I would have never, I would have never came up with that on my own. The other thing about Stephanie Arnold is, initially when I was writing my book with my first writing coach, I had asked her to do the foreword. And she was very busy because she's also an author and a speaker. And she says, I'm really sorry. I'd love to do that for you, but my timing, it's not going to work out. Fast forward to working with David, I got in touch with her again. And I said, Stephanie, please, if you have a minute, can you please do my foreword? And she did it. So my foreword is done by Stephanie Arnold, and she was the mustard seed that was planted, that started this whole thing. So it's a complete circle.
Love it. Love it. I don't I know you and I have not talked about this, but I love that you said that you were inspired by God, the Holy Spirit, whatever, right, to write this, and you wrote that down. My dad, who is 80, he just turned 84, has been writing for the last 10 years. He has written 4 books on of religious prayers, poems. He calls them poems. They really are prayers, but he calls them poems. And he was never even a Christian till my mom died, right? And now he writes books of poetry about that he claims, I'm not, and I don't doubt him for a moment, that he is woken up in the middle of the night by the Holy Spirit and the words just come to him, right? To write down. So
Yep,
um I do believe, I'm a believer, Nancy, I'm a believer. So I love that.
absolutely.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story because I do think it is a book of love, right? Your book there, A Stroke of Love, no, Stroke of Love, right? Stroke of Love. Listen, you guys, I put it here in the chat or in the a picture there. You can get it on Amazon. So if you want to get Nancy's book there, I'm sure she would appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
also, you said that you are also branching out into inspirational speaking. Have you been
Correct.
speaking already about this story from this?
I have been sharing my story with whomever has the time to listen on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Clubhouse. And just to let you know, my wonderful friend and coach is on David Strauss, and he's in the chat, and he is sharing the link.
I is he?
He's
Oh,
been
let me.
yeah.
Hold on, there is, I don't see his, hold on a minute. Hold on, David, I'm looking for it. David Strauss, love it. Thank you so much for being here and sharing that for us and for Nancy. Love that. So it's going to go right into all of the social media pieces there. So, Nancy, I know this wasn't around business, which normally it is, but honestly, when you and I talked last, you were looking to kind of create a speaking business around this book. So I love it. So I am going to ask you for a piece of business advice, which is how I end all of my podcasts there. What's been the biggest takeaway around business for you? The biggest piece of advice you could give another entrepreneur who may be suffering from some of the same things you've suffered from. I have no doubt that there are women out there or men out there who will hear your story and be relieved that they're not the only ones. Not that you know what I'm saying, right? That they're not
Absolutely.
the only people there, and that it will inspire other people to maybe live a little bit more in the here and now, and not in the past. So, what would be a piece
Absolutely.
of advice you'd like to share with us?
So the most important thing I found on my journey, excuse me, is you cannot do it alone. And I don't think you should do it alone. Um, there's that old saying, it takes a village, to raise a child. It takes a village to be in any kind of business. And as you all know, anyone that knows me, I love people. I love hearing their stories. I love sharing my story. Um, and I think I've taken it for granted that even as a young child, um, I was always in trouble in school because I was talking and I was talking. And, I think we take for granted that talking is a bad thing. Um, Talking in my life has done so much for me. I mean, the business term to talking is networking. And networking for me comes as easy as brushing my teeth. Everywhere I go, I network in the grocery store, at the laundromat. I'm networking. So I guess my business takeaway would be just just talk to people wherever you are. You never know that little piece of advice that you share with someone, how that starts a ripple effect.
Right.
And that has been the biggest takeaway for me, because if it wasn't for my mouth, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Yeah.
Um, put yourself out there, be vulnerable, be an open book, um, and be transparent.
I agree 100%. Nancy, thank you so much for being here. It has just been lovely having you here. David, thank you for being here and supporting Nancy. And thank you for stopping by to hear Nancy's inspirational story of what she's gone through, that I'm sure that there are people out there who are feeling her right now. Have a great day, everybody. Talk to y'all soon. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.